Thank you. Thank you. That was 2 songs from our new album, Dressing Up. It's out now. And welcome to this launch of the anthology Kindred in Chaos, 19 Lesbians in the Age of Gender Identity. We have had the launch in London and one in Copenhagen, and this time it's Oslo. And I'm very pleased for tonight's panel with 2 of the young contributors from UK. And to moderate the conversation, we have the brilliant Kate Barker, who is the CEO at the LGB Alliance. She's also an author. She released a book called The Coldest Place on Earth, and she's working on her 2nd book. So she will moderate the conversation, so I give the mic for her and for the other panelists to join us at stage. And also I just have to thank Freedom of Word, Fritt Ord, for they supported us with the book and also with this event, which is really good.
Okay. That was brilliant, wasn't it? Like more applause, I think, for that. I mean, come on. That's more like it, yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think that's a bit more like it. So thank you very much for that. I'm really proud to have been asked to chair. I think this is a really important discussion, and it's fantastic to have brilliant lesbians on the panel, and the brilliant lesbians in question are Dr. Miranda Imperial, Alison Ellis, who's an LGB Alliance youth ambassador, and of course Tonje Gjevjon, who we know. Now, what I thought we would do is I'm going to ask the panelists to say a little bit about themselves, about their experiences, about kind of how they arrived at this place. And then I will grill them with some more questions, mercilessly, about their book and you know, what drove it and the creative processes. And then at the end, save up your questions, please, because we'd love to have a Q&A and really get everybody involved. So do you want to kick off, Alison? Why not?
Yes, so I'm Alison Ellis. I'm 26 years old. I was born in Leeds, and as a child, I didn't fit in at all with the other girls. I liked playing with toy cars, trucks, dinosaurs, all that kind of thing. I took one look at a doll, and I threw it across the room. Yeah. And we moved to a very boring village when I was around 10 years old. And then that's a few years after that, I went to high school. Oh, just one thing I forgot to mention. When I was 7 years old, I had a really big crush on my mum's co-worker. And yeah, I would not shut up about her. And my mum told her co-worker about this behaviour, and the co-worker said, "I wonder why she's like that." And it's a really funny memory that I look back on. But yeah, fast forward to high school and the onset of puberty, things were very difficult socially and physically as well. And around 15, just realised, I'm a lesbian, I'm exclusively same-sex attracted, and I knew that was what a lesbian was. And I faced a lot of bullying because of this by my friend group when they found out, and then the next day they just did not want to talk to me, they excluded me, and it was that bad that I got told to see the school counsellor because my mental health was also really bad as well. Because of it, I felt very vulnerable. And so they recommended to me to go to the local LGBT youth group in the nearby town. So I went there, and the first thing they asked was, "What are your pronouns and what do you identify as?" I'm like, "I'm just a lesbian," really shyly. because they all went around the table to introduce themselves, and a lot of them called themselves trans, demisexual, pansexual. I'm like, what is all this? I don't understand any of it. I'm just a lesbian. And we got given these colouring in sheets as well, which was really strange. They had all these different flags on. I didn't understand either. Yeah, the atmosphere there was very unwelcoming, and it gave me a headache with all this weird language I didn't understand, like cis, trans, all that stuff. And yeah, the day after, I got told not to come back by the school counsellor, the group organiser, and one of the members of that group as well. I should have questioned why, but at the time, I was very, very vulnerable. I'm like, oh, I just want a space to be around other lesbians. So yeah, then I went to university. I studied an illustration degree. My experience there was quite strange as well, because a lot of the tutors really push this sort of queer stuff onto you, especially in an arts-related subject. And the students that identified as queer, they got special treatment. I thought it was really strange. I didn't go to the LGBT society during my whole time at university. I was just really put off by the youth group, honestly. So yeah, it was very isolating. Then after university, I did have a very big crush on my roommate during my time at university as well.
This is a theme, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, after I finished university, I tried attending, during that whole time period, I was attending pride events to find other lesbians. Yeah, it was the same thing with all these weird flags. Just felt really out of place there. And I did go to an LGBTQ plus women's meet up before I knew anything about what was going on. And when I went there, it was at the sculpture park, and there was this, I assumed she was just a butch lesbian, and I found her very attractive, so I wanted to go up to her and talk to her and get to know her, as you do. And straight away, she's like, my name is, she uses a male name and male pronouns as well. I'm like, this is so weird. What is going on here? And then she went on to talk about these evil transphobic TERF lesbians in this other group. I'm like, they're just lesbians? I find that quite strange. And yeah, as soon as I got home, I searched up what a TERF was on Google, and I kept seeing these screenshots of lesbians being targeted and harassed by these men calling themselves trans lesbians. I'm like, this isn't right, this is awful. And eventually on YouTube, I found Magdalene Byrne's YouTube channel, and I watched them all, and my mind was blown, because I was like, wow, I'm not the only one who feels this way. And I distinctively remember I have to do something about this. I can't just sit here silently, because this is really bothering me now. So after a while on X, just to get to know what was kind of going on here, I eventually plucked up enough courage to go on to TikTok. And TikTok is a platform that is mostly used by young people, and a lot of the stuff on there is very gender identity focused and stuff. So I thought maybe if I was inspired by Magdalene's videos to take action and call out the rubbish on there by stating facts about what it means to be a lesbian, sorry, and that it's based on exclusive same-sex attraction. That's what being a lesbian is. It's nothing to do with what you identify as or gender identity or what. It's down to sexual and romantic attraction to women. So yeah, I did get a few accounts cancelled on there as well. But in the end, my account is still standing. I have since been having a break and moving away from TikTok for now. And that's how I kind of got into the LGB Alliance conference as well, and met Tonje and Kate Barker. And I spoke there at the conference about my experience with the LGBT youth group and the TikTok account, and finding Magdalene's videos as well. So yeah, that's basically how I got to this stage. Sorry for rambling.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
That's brilliant. That's great. Thank you so much, Alison. Miranda, tell us your story.
Yes, thank you so much for having me here today. It's wonderful to work with you all and Tonje and Alison once again in this wonderful book. A little bit about me. So I'm 28 years old. Clearly a dowager aunt at this point, but yeah, getting older. I am originally from Spain. I'm from Madrid, but I moved to the United Kingdom age 18 to study at university. So I've been living there for about 11 years now. And I studied my whole degrees there, so like undergrad all throughout my PhD. Kind of, so you can imagine what it was like. It was, yeah, in the sphere of like Oxbridge, Oxford and Cambridge, and London School of Economics mainly. So universities that are sort of known in the academic canon as, you know, putting forward some of the most important ideas that we have about research, about education, about how things should be in that particular industry. And that gave me a really interesting insight into the dynamics of what is this ideology and this movement, and how lesbians were being thought of and treated in those specific spaces. So I knew I was a lesbian when I got to Cambridge when I first arrived. And after my first year, not knowing where the lesbians were, I just wanted to create some community and find my own way, you know, drill down my own path of, yeah, making my own life and meeting other women like me, basically. And it was a very tough academic environment. It was a very demanding environment. There was already a lot of disillusionment on my behalf since I got there, and even more so without the lesbians. So I, unfortunately, should have met Alison and asked for her advice on going to the LGBT Society at university. But yeah, I did go to the LGBT Society to try to find some women, of which there were not many in the first instance. But I was also met with a lot of strange tropes and a lot of strange questions upon defining myself as a lesbian. I was met with resistance. I just wanted to get involved and actually start up lesbian events, because there were all of these events for gay men and all of these club nights that were predominantly, you know, just blokes. And I wanted to meet other women. And I was told that the word lesbian was not inclusive enough as a word. Essentially, it was treated as a dirty word because it seemed too, you know, too secluded to the domain of women. It didn't seem like it was inclusive to anyone who might decide to identify into that category. It's not inclusive to a very vulnerable trans community, etc. And so I thought there was something there that didn't sit right with me. There was also, you know, 2015 to 2018 in the UK was the real thick of it. I think we were getting a lot of questions about, you know, oh, would you have sex with a trans woman? And that was essentially something we would call symbolic violence, because you're in a position where you're not allowed to say no, because if you said no, you'd be ostracized from every single friend group and every single society in the university, because everyone there believed that trans women were women and that you, as a woman, had to shut up and deal with it. And I didn't like that, because I did not believe that I would have to sleep with a trans woman to prove my lesbianism. Shocking, I know. Now, around 2019 is when I started articulating this realization. I started thinking, well, what about the women? I was so incensed that there were no spaces for us, and we were not allowed to even carve out our own spaces. So that was really something that started getting me really angry. I think with the pandemic, I got angrier and angrier. And I started reading all of these, banned feminist texts. I started reading Andrea Dworkin. I started reading Mary Daly, Valerie Solanas, Janice Raymond, the whole lot. I got really into poetry, lesbian poetry, like Adrienne Rich, like Audre Lorde. And that got me thinking, I need some community of women who want to define and want to state that we are lesbians, we are same-sex attracted, and we want our own spaces. And so that's what led me to some of the radical feminists in London, many of whom are lesbians. And I found them on Meetup. I started going to some of the RadFem drinks in London. I then went to a conference in Cardiff where I met a lot of women and created my own network. And that finally started making me feel a little bit more sane and a little bit like all of this going on outside, in the outside world, it's not okay. And we're allowed to assert our own boundaries, and we're allowed to live our lives how we see fit, and standing up for who we are, and that is lesbians. And I suppose that's driven me to, I'm a bit action-driven. I always want to be organizing things, and my friend and I started a collective called the London Lesbian Collective, where we organize a couple of events every year, and we are mainly out to be kind of lesbian only, and we are organizing participatory workshops and sort of events that don't just rotate, even though we really need, the bars and the clubs. It's not just that. It's a little bit of something else, not just based around consumerism, capitalism, you name it, whatever. But that's been really lovely to be able to start something where I feel like lesbians are at the center, and it feels like there is a need and a space for lesbians that's needed. And I think that's what drove me to end up working with my own little contribution in this lovely book. So thank you so much for, having me and inviting me over.
Oh, amazing. Thanks, Miranda. Tonje.
Ja. Hello. Hører du meg? Yeah. Yeah. So I was a typical tomboy, as I guess a lot of lesbian has been. I had one super talent, and that was football. And so I organized my own football team when I was like 10 or something. And then in playing football, it was actually a lot of other lesbians. So when I was about 13 years old, we actually had our own lesbian parties, the one who were playing football. So long before I went to the lesbian or gay scene, I was like familiar with being only women and lesbians. And when I turned 16, I started to go to the lesbian and gay clubs, and that was like my second home. I just loved being at the place with gay and lesbian. And we had like this place for both men and women, homosexuals, called Metropol. And they played really good music, and everything was nice. And then we also had a place called Potta for lesbians. And I think I was there every weekend for like 10 years or something. It was, I just loved the place, and it was full of lesbians, like butches, like all kinds of types. And I could flirt, I could drink too much, and I could like dance and try to find some other lesbian to may fall in love with or kiss or something. And it was just, I think this club shaped me. It was not political, it was just being young And at least when I was young, I didn't care of politics at all. I just wanted to have fun, as most young people do. So, and then it felt like I drank too much, and I woke up like 40 years later, and then suddenly everything is upside down. And suddenly even people in the government say that men can be lesbians, you know. And it's like, what is happening here? And I started as a columnist in a newspaper to write about it. And then it was just not very welcomed, I can assure you. And it was like really impossible to get a real conversation about to address why this is a problem for women and lesbians. And but I kept on trying, and then I got reported by the police for like speech crime, hate crime. And this news went all over the world, and that's how Kate Barker and the other two women in LGB Alliance heard about me, and you called me up and asked what is going on. And then they organized this Lesbian Not Criminal roadshow, which it was fantastic. And lots of other lesbians telling their stories. And we had music, we had dance, we had like conversations in several towns in UK. And there at this, I was approached by young lesbians who told me about their situation, which was like totally different from the joy I had experienced. And of course I had experienced this joy because of the second wave feminists and also gay and lesbians paving the way for it, so that I just came to the party after all the fights were done. Then I got this idea that all this situation for young lesbians should be it should be like in a product, because I'm an artist and I like products, I like books, I like albums, I like physical things that shows what is going on. So I applied for funding from Freedom of Speech and got it. And I contacted Alison, who has also like proofread the book, because my English isn't that good, even though it's quite good. And we also had like lots of discussions with the story. And also in the audience is Anne Marve, the philosopher, who is also, she's like a shadow editor and shadow everything. I call her the eagle, I'm the ant, so you need like the whole perspective. Yeah, and then we got the stories, and we got more than 19, but we felt like these 19 were, it was enough. And here we are. The book is out. The first printing has been sold out, so this is the second printing, and it's also, and it's also interest for a translation to Chinese, French, German, and Spanish, but we haven't done any contracts yet, but that would be really gorgeous.
Amazing. Brilliant. Thank you very much, Tonje. I'll just say a little bit about my story and how I'm here. So I think I arrived a bit late to this fight, really. It was about 2017, and I was running a design agency that I'd founded, and everything was fine. It was fine to be a lesbian in the UK, and in fact, the government had changed the law in 2002 so that same-sex couples could adopt, and my partner and I had adopted 2 children, so I had 2 teenage children. Everything was fine, and I was writing a monthly column for Diva magazine, which, if people know, used to be a lesbian magazine, and it was called The Lesbian Boss, and it was just kind of a little bit of fun, and it was a column about how, if you're a lesbian, how to ask for a pay rise at work, or how to get a promotion at work. And I'd write this column every month And the editor never changed a word, except every time I used the word lesbian, she'd just say, oh, could we add "and our trans sisters" after it? And, you know, I'll confess, I just did it. And looking back, I don't think it was that I was being kind or I wanted to be inclusive. But back then, it kind of felt of no consequence. I just didn't realise what was happening. And then a few months later, I'd written a column, and it was about pay disparity. And it was about, you know, how lesbians might earn less than straight women, or lesbians might earn less than gay men. And the editor said, oh, could you just put "and our trans sisters"? And I said, well, I can't really do that, because if you look at the data, the real differentiator is whether somebody is male or female. You know, that's something that shows in the data. And she said, trans women are female. And that was the kind of the moment for me when I thought, hang on, what's happening here? This is crazy. This is a lesbian magazine. And that actually, the editor then went off and worked for an organisation called Mermaids, which is one of the worst child trans organisations in the UK. So I started to volunteer for LGB Alliance, and then over time, it's become my overriding interest. So I shelved the other business and completely focused on LGB Alliance. But there's a kind of a circularity really here, that we're here talking about the book, and my sort of revelation was over the written word. And I do think it's almost kind of an act of rebellion to be able to put the truth on paper these days. And so I'm really, really pleased to be a part of it. And thank you so much for all your hard work in putting it together and bringing it here today. Now questions. Now I'm going to ask them some questions. So save up yours. So if I can start with you, Tonje. I mean, it does. The whole book feels like a kind of an act of resistance and an act of defiance. What is your take? What is the impact on young lesbians of this ideology?
Yeah, the impact. Yeah, it's if you read the book, what is like repeatedly written is like Alison's story. They try to find a community with the lesbians, and when they enter this community, they experience that it's not okay to use the word lesbian. And if you use the word lesbian, you are asked, but what about trans women? And it's quite, I mean, the LGBTQ plus is like, they frame themselves as they should be like a society for lesbians, but the experience of young lesbians are the opposite. So what happens is like they, after trying to find some community, and they isolate because they understand that this is not a good environment for me. And then they do as Alison, they go Googling TERF and transphobe, and then they understand that they are not alone. What they are feeling they're not insane, it's normal. They know what a lesbian is. And then online they find communities. And then they are like also meeting in person after that. But I think also, I mean, I also should say a big thank you to the 19 lesbians who have written their stories, because it's like hard work, and it's like lived experience from young lesbians, and they lived experience from young lesbians.
Do you think that's different from if you're looking at older lesbians? You know, you've had reactions to this book. Do you see there's a difference in the way a young lesbian might react to this book and an older lesbian? Are the older lesbians okay, or are they still being impacted by this?
they are impacted, but they have been young lesbians in a time where it was you didn't have to sit in a panel and explain what a lesbian is.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is like, And also it has been COVID, so a lot of isolation and no communities. So it's, but also what I think is really important is how this gender identity, politics, cult, religion, whatever you call it, what it really attacks is like young girls and lesbians, like young women, and their boundaries, because like all these lesbians in the book, they have in some way trusted their instinct because they know what a lesbian is. And also they have some kind of integrity. But the way this LGBTQI community and the politics are like telling them that it's not to be a lesbian have to include men saying they are lesbians. They are like confusing young girls, women. So it's like, I think, like when I grew up, I was, like the society said, if somebody touch you, if somebody try to push your boundaries, just say no. It's your body, you're like everything. And I think for young girls to protect themselves, they need to trust their instincts. And I think this gender identity, politics, and culture are confusing young girls and say you don't have to don't trust your instincts because this is what you have to do. And then they will not be able to take care of themselves, which I think is quite a serious thing. So I'm really angry at how the politicians today, who themselves know all about how important boundaries are, they neglect this part of the gender identity politics.
So the harm to young lesbians, in effect, is profound.
Yeah.
You know, if you can't assert what your boundaries are, or you're not even allowed to state what your boundaries are, makes them intensely vulnerable, doesn't it? And when you were talking before, Alison, it's kind of you feel quite vulnerable. Lots of us feel vulnerable when we're young anyway.
Yeah.
But if you're not in the sort of heteronormative majority, it's even more difficult.
Yeah. And then the groups that are supposed to be there, where you're supposed to make these connections and find other people like yourself when you're already feeling very kind of out, like lost and a bit vulnerable at first. The first thing they do is they really push this gender identity stuff onto you, when many of them may just be young lesbians that are seeking a place to go, to find, you know, a partner, to flirt, to dance, as Tonje said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's quite dire because this all creates this culture of silence where women can't be speaking to each other about what's actually going on, and they don't get. I mean, I've certainly felt that I haven't had the confidence to stand up to this in the past, and you know, getting that confidence is so important, and the work that I think this book is doing to show that, you know, women can do that is so important. But yeah, like making lesbians their own little individual islands, you know, they're making them meek and politically numb by conforming to these ideas, and that's what this book is really calling out. I think it's so important.
Is that the sort of major idea that you wanted to communicate with your contribution? What do you think was the key point, the key issue you wanted to communicate?
I think so. I think it's about trying to find that community where you're essentially able to speak up and call out what is misogyny, really. I think that when you're in a group that is essentially denying all of your right to speak out, there is something inherently wrong there. And finding that community and actually putting your foot down and driving forward despite that is important. And the only way to do that, if you don't see it in your groups, is to do it yourself, right? But yeah, it's, I guess, also calling out what a kind of united front this thing has been, and all of the institutional backing that it had, not just in terms of finances, but in terms of, I mean, in higher education, in academia, in every sphere of society, we're seeing the same thing. And there's just this huge denial of the voices of women in general, but of younger women and of lesbians. I mean, it's really astounding.
It's particularly difficult as well that some, because not all young lesbians will either agree with you or be prepared to show that they agree. Why do you think some women are silent? Some young women remain silent? Is the cost too high?
I think it's because they're afraid of how aggressive the trans activists can be, particularly towards young lesbians if they speak out. But yeah, because there's a huge risk involved in speaking out, and they may lose their friend connections, and it may be even their job as well, because it's so ingrained into all these different sectors, like healthcare, jobs, sports as well, women-only spaces, and stuff like that. Yeah.
Are there any other contributors, you're not allowed to name each other, that really made you sort of stop and think that you were shocked by any of the other contributions, or which ones did you find most startling or interesting?
Well, the one that stood out most to me was, I think it was one of the contributors in the book had, she shared her experiences on her love life, like the partners that she had, and one of them started identifying as trans and started getting surgeries and stuff, and it was how she went through it emotionally as well. It really struck a chord with me.
What about you, Miranda? Was there one that really stood out for you?
Yeah, there was a lot of them that really echoed with my own experiences, both personally and also with other women that I have spoken to in this movement. I think there was the Australian contributor, I think her name is Laura. She made a point about how many groups in Society of Peers will suggest that she is trans or non-binary because of her not so feminine appearance, which has happened to me on countless occasions. Everyone will be in a room chatting away. I walk into the room and everyone makes a point to ask for my pronouns and not everyone else's.
Yeah, we were just chatting about this before, weren't we?
Yeah, and I think that's just, for me, that's just calling out, that's inherent misogyny, because why should a woman not be a woman because she has short hair? Like, that's the most regressive stereotyping that I have ever seen. And we're in a world where we've had the second wave of feminists before us, many of them lesbians fighting hard for our rights, that we are being alienated from by this movement. And, nobody reads, nobody's trying to connect us with our past, really. And that's really, really damaging. So I really enjoyed reading that from Laura. I think she also talked about what she saw as a suicide prevention worker and what she was seeing in the youth coming to her with, identifying as different things because of what they've been reading online and what they've been reading in different corners of the internet. I think it's echo chambers of groups that are clearly radicalizing themselves into believing certain notions completely alienated from their bodies and who they are. So that was a really interesting contribution.
Well, this is a question for anybody really then. So what would you advise young lesbians who are sex realist, gender critical, whatever you want to call them, you know that a lesbian is a woman who's attracted to another woman, would you advise her to speak up, and if so, how and in what forums? Maybe you wouldn't advise her. Maybe you think it's too costly.
Yeah, I'd say there is a huge risk in speaking out, especially if you do use your real name as well. Yeah, there is a big risk in that. So I would advise being very careful about that, but also perhaps to reach out to LGB Alliance and...
Good, well done. Yeah. Yes, do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's shocking that we have to operate in covert ways many times to just find other lesbians. I mean, what world do we live in? Did we not get any rights back in the day? I mean, to me, it's still just pretty surreal. But I think, yeah, I would recommend just connecting with other lesbians, both those lesbians that have come before us. I mean, I'm a firm believer in intergenerational feminist activism. I love that. I have so many amazing 65-year-old friends who were, I have a friend who was the first civil partnership in Camden in London, which is amazing. So hearing about that has really kind of empowered me to actually speak out more and create those networks. And then, yeah, tap into the networks that exist, like LGB Alliance, like maybe some local lesbian or feminist organizations near you, of course, that know what a lesbian is. And then you can go further. You can start your own projects. They can be creative. They can be political. They can be groups. They can be your own thing. But I think creating and not distracting, that's what we really ought to be doing. And this is what these people don't want us to do, to be creative and to actually speak out. So that's what I would recommend.
Yeah. Also, that there's nothing wrong at all with being lesbian, and it doesn't require any medical intervention at all. So you don't have to change yourself in any way, even if you're a butch or a tomboy lesbian as well. You do not need top surgeries, and yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's just heartbreaking seeing so many young lesbians that feel the need to do that.
Yeah, terrible. So, couldn't agree more with that, Alison. But with that said, what do you think the future looks like for young lesbians? Are you optimistic, pessimistic? What's your feelings and thoughts?
I'm optimistic because at the last LGB conference, I did see more young people speak out, which is very important. And I have seen a lot more young people in general speaking out about this stuff, which again is really good, and creating their own spaces, as Miranda said. Yeah, I'm optimistic.
Well, as a TikToker as well, maybe it's just the way the algorithms work, but I'm seeing so many more young people saying, don't call me cis, and, just and getting huge engagement and follows. So I don't know if that's a good indicator as well. What do you think, Miranda? Do you think positive? What's the future look like?
I think objectively, I think there's less of a push to censor quite as much as was being done when I first arrived in the UK, at least. I mean, I'm certainly worried about legislation in some countries around the world, like my home country, Spain. I mean, right now it's actually a crime to misgender people, and you can go to prison for it. So, especially like with teachers, if they misgender like pupils, that's like really, really bad. So that concerns.
What does it mean,
misgender? If you call someone by the wrong pronouns. So if you see a woman and you call her, no worries, like, her instead of him. So you can get a fine of 20k, which is 20,000 euro, or go to jail at worst. But I mean, at least in the United Kingdom, I think we are seeing a bit of progress, and we are seeing that, there's more young women involved, which is important for the movement to keep going. I'd love to see more young women stepping up and organizing, go beyond thinking about it and meeting, and hopefully that's the next step. I would really enjoy seeing that. I think that the spaces that exist are such a great catalyst for, and there's such an appetite for those spaces to exist. I mean, we see it with London Lesbian Collective every year, our main event. We've been getting about, over 50 women from different places in the world, sometimes 70, and they come every year, and it's just a great space to keep going. But I mean, LGB Alliance was seeing as well, like the turnout of young people this year was particularly amazing. So
yeah, it was great.
I think, slowly but surely, there is some outlook to be had, which couldn't be said some years ago. That's for sure.
Do you think there's some element of it kind of falling out of fashion with young people? Having been hugely fashionable, across TikTok and everything. Do you think it will ever be fashionable to be a lesbian again? That's what I'm looking forward to. I used to be cool once.
Well, I think that's a tricky one, really, because I don't see being lesbian as a fashion thing. It's just more of a part of who you are, who you're sexually attracted to. But in terms of the gender identity stuff, I think these young people get really bored of it. So.
Yeah, let's hope.
But I think I always have this conversation with Tonje, and I think we agree. We need some cool lesbian representation out there. I don't know if this is, in my part, I don't know. Because, this is one of my favorite things about the second wave. We had, so much publishing by lesbians, for lesbians, independent presses. There was so much cultural production. And I think that's something that I certainly have not done and I can't really do, but people like Tonje are doing, and actually, really empowering younger women to keep going and actually speak out. And I just value that so much, because we need that. And the fact that you are doing these things and creating these spaces and creating cultural, output that the lesbians will think, oh, that's cool. I want to know who she is. I want to meet them. That's so important as a stepping stone to actually get there. So I thank you for that.
And my last question is one for each of you as well. I'd just like to know what's your favourite thing about the book, either working on it or the finished product or the impact it's going to have. If you could pick one thing.
I'll say the front page, the cover.
I enjoyed the photo shoot the most.
Did you?
Yeah, because I liked how you styled it, and you're like, got me a haircut and stuff. I never felt so cool in my entire life. So yeah, the photo shoot.
Yeah, that was a really nice bonding moment. I think for me, the whole process has been amazing. I think I first met Tonje at Lesbian Not Criminal, the roadshow, back in 2023, I think. And that was such a nice time where we got speaking and we kind of, started becoming friendly. And then she contacted me about working on the book and, bared with how annoying it was about getting my contribution in and everything. And honestly, I think the way that she's gone about it is amazing. And this community, I suppose, that she's creating, and completely unselfishly, is just really remarkable. And I feel very lucky to be a part of it. I think it's going to be a great catalyst for, more young lesbians to feel like it's okay to be themselves.
Yeah, but I also like that it's so small.
Yeah.
You can just put it here. And also I think all of these 19 lesbians have some kind of stubbornness. Is that the English word?
Yeah.
Yeah. So some of them are really pessimistic about the future, but at least I'm going to write this story about what happened to me, which is nice. And I also want because we also actually went to a lesbian party when we met.
Yes.
And it was in the basement of a Brazilian restaurant or something, which is what you do in the communist countries 50 years ago. So it's I hope...
they closed the garden at 11. Too much noise.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
but it was also like in a secret address and things,
Yeah.
like which it shouldn't be. Like young lesbians have to like go to a lesbian event, and it's a almost secret word to come in. This is not how it's supposed to be. So I think
I also like how there's loads of different similarities across the stories as well, because it really fits with the title, Kindred in Chaos, how even in different countries, this kind of thing connects us in a way. Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. And I think now we're going to go to questions from the audience. So who's going to be brave and ask the first one?
I.
Yeah, so you have to come up. There's a cord. I can't move around because of the... So, who's first?
Go on, someone's got to have a question,
You need to
even if
speak
it's
into
how
the-
much
Who
is
is
it?
first?
And
There we go.
come up and Anne here. Anne.
First of all, thank you for being witnesses to what happens. This is quite amazing that you've been able to tell your stories so honestly and so authentic. It's amazing to read. And to me, it's very many similarities from my own time, because we were gathering like you are. But we didn't have the authorities against us, we didn't have the law against us, and we didn't have the trans community against us. So to us, it was just a question of gathering and making up things, finding places, doing things. We had a cultural festival for only women in Oslo. The whole town was colored with women, and nobody tried to object to it. And I think some of all the things, we made a crisis center, I think some of all these things came along because there was a tribunal after in the women's year 1975, where women, lesbians, turned up and witnessed, like you do. They witnessed how their lives, how their daily lives was, and what happened to them in that society. So what you are doing is really starting something new, and I thank you for that.
Hi, thank you so much. I'll join the previous speaker on that one. My name is Margaret. I've had the great pleasure of cooperating a bit with Tonje here in Norway, also discussing, so on each other's side. My question is a little bit complicated, I think, for me at least. But I'm wondering about the psychology for you, both as young lesbians and as young women. Like there's an intersectionality at play here. You sort of tick off several boxes of the pressure that's been put on you, like from on a societal, industrial level. It's quite insane what you've been through, right? So kudos to you for standing here tonight through that. I was wondering, how is it like for you in the cases where you do perceive some men, in my language, so adult male people, as women? So if they've gone through that process of medicalization to the degree that you generally perceive them as female when you first meet them, how is that like for you when you then know, since you are quite enlightened, you know what this is about, what is ongoing, this is not a woman? Do you have any thoughts on that as young women?
Well, young lesbians face an immense amount of pressure to accept penises when there's these men that identify as trans lesbians. They expect us to be attracted to them, and factually, we don't do penises.
Can I just say as well that a man who cuts off his penis is not a woman. You know, a woman is not just a man without a penis. And personally, I think anyone who's crazy enough to cut off their own body parts in pursuit of an impossible ideal is pretty dangerous and scary as well. So I'd be pretty scared about being in the public toilet with a man that mutilated himself to that degree, because I don't think he's very well But yeah, women, you know, it's impossible to change sex, and I don't want to speak for you, but I think we probably agree that there is no degree where someone's almost a bit womanly. There's men and women, sex is binary and immutable.
Yeah, I mean, it's, yeah, if anything, it's uncanny and upsetting in the sense that I don't believe in, you know, you're born in the wrong body. That's some sort of
Voodoo.
Pseudo, yeah, some sort of spiritual, I don't know, idea that, yeah, we're, you know, mind and body are separate, and that, no, I believe that we are our bodies, and we are born as we are, and we live with that, and yeah, I think it's the biology, and it's also like the social upbringing. Like, men are not socialized like women in our society. Like, we are treated very differently, and the fact that someone believes that they can go around and call himself a woman, and then these groups tell us that we're privileged to be born as women because they have, you know, they're not privileged and they have to try really hard to be a woman. For me, that poses a really threatening narrative to the fact that you're calling women who suffer from many of the problems that women suffer, like, you know, sexual assault, etc., domestic violence, you name them. You're telling them that's a privilege and that they're identifying with their oppression, essentially. And that, for me, is a big no-no.
Mm. Hello, I'm Knut Irving here. In Norwegian, it's Irvin. It's kind of more fun to say it in English. I have one word. It's conversion therapy. Just a couple of, I think this week, tomorrow, it's going to be Pride Moss, isn't it? Moss Pride?
I think it was the last.
No,
I think maybe it is today.
Yeah, and you are not there. You are an artist, and you were invited openly to entertain people with singing, happiness, Tonje, yeah, and you were just ostracized. And I don't know all the letters, sorry, because I will say homo and lesbian, and that's okay, and nobody cares. But what we care about is that they try to convert you to something you are not. And that's kind of inherently important to say something about, because when she is excluded and the band is excluded, all the letters that are same-sex attracted or bi-sex attracted, you are expected to engage in people with identity. And this is not a small thing, because they use hormone on kids. They want them in the uncertainty you talked about when you were young. Then the answer is the hormone, and you should be converted. In the Labour Party program in Norway for this period, it says same-sex identity. Mm. In the Labour Party program 2025 to 2029. And I have to do something about that. I'm going to be immensely unpopular, but I will do it. Yeah. So I need you to address this conversion therapy that you're in for. This is group pressure. It's the worst I've seen. Mm. If you love women, who cares? Please give them a kiss. But not a man. I understand you're not interested. I'm a man. I understand that. So how should I wreck your party? I have no understanding why I'm the wrecker. And I don't understand all the men who do that either. So this, please address this identity stuff. Thank you. Yeah.
I mean, just the word same-sex identity. I don't understand it. No. It's like, what is that? So, but I think you're right. I could say something about Moss Pride, because they invited LGB in Norway and also Hungry Heart to perform. And the organizer is a young lesbian, which is like a creator, really a resource for the town. And she had the audacity to make a pride with which is like independent of the Stonewall thing in Norway, and also to set the program herself. So when the program was announced and the LGB Norway and Hungry Hearts were in the program, it was like the worst attack I've ever seen in Norway. And it was, first of all, on this young lesbian for inviting LGB Norway and Hungry Hearts to do our thing in the festival. So you had like political party, like the local political party, Socialist Party, you had like the Communist Party, Red, and you have like other parties going out saying with like even with in a like no LGB without the T, which is like forced marriage in a way. Like we must be the only group in Norway that are not allowed to decide who we are going to organize with. And the way they dragged this young lesbian through the worst kind of harassment, attacking her from all sides. Not one adult person in that town, Moss, defended that young lesbian, who had to say, I'm sorry. She couldn't take the pressure, and so she disinvited us. Is that the English word? Yeah.
Yeah.
And she had to say sorry so many times, and finally she had to say sorry to all trans persons in Norway. It's the worst kind of shaming and of a young woman I've ever seen actually in Norway. So it's like when you asked what you advise young lesbians to do, if you're in Norway, don't do anything alone. I think you should organize, go to LGB Norway, so we can work together, because they will haunt her for the rest of her life, because they have no mercy, and they will even haunt her after she's dead, I suppose. So I think this what you say is like, you have the physical aspect where tomboys are like, people think, or just the thing that if you're a girl and fall in love with all the girls, then they ask, are you a boy? And then if you like non-gender confirming, what do you call it?
Gender non-conforming.
Yeah, gender non-confirming. Then it's like you are a boy. So the whole society is like have this huge pressure on girls that only they just stick out in some ways. So I think, it's both freedom of expression physically, and also the freedom of expression to say what everybody also in the Norwegian government actually know. They know that the man can't be a lesbian, but they pretend they don't know, because I think also now the legislation is so, we have one of the world's worst legislation when it comes to gender identity. So I think it will be hard to change this in Norway. I think we will be the last country who do it. So I think I'm looking on a long fight in a way. But I think that books like this it makes a difference, because it is testimonies from young lesbians. So yeah, and maybe it's like, I think people are doing some work there, others here, and I think finally at the end it has to change, because we can't live in insanity forever.
Yeah. Thank you. Did that answer your question? You happy with that answer? Good. Thank you. Any more questions?
Okay.
Any more? Well, we're still going to be kind of hanging around here for a little while. So if you do want to come up and talk to any of the writers or the participants, please do buy a book. We need it, and we want to sell as many of these as possible. Question. I was wrapping up. It's like an auction where you go down to the last minute and then somebody pops in.
I just want to come. Where did my English go? I'm Katrine Harstad. I'm an ally, so I'm so proud that I met you all before. And I just want to say I'm so starstruck to have you here. Because I went to the LGB Alliance conference as an ally. I was
Did you? Like this year?
Yeah.
Oh,
great.
great.
It was miraculous. It was really, really fun. Best party. So I just wanted to say that I'm starstruck that you're here, and of course you guys, but I knew you would be here, but I didn't know you. You did a good job, Tonje. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. That's very sweet.
And I also want to mention that we are going to be in the bar, have some drinks, and have some fun. So for everyone who wants to talk and just have fun after this, very welcome.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for the panel. Thank you, of course, to Tonje for all her efforts, and thank you too for coming. It's been great.
Thank you.